November 18th, 1998. After being a cartoon short in 1992, after being shown as a pilot on What a Cartoon in 1995 and 96, the Powerpuff Girls premiered as a fully fleshed out show. 21 years later, the show is still remembered fondly. And what better way to show appreciation than to talk about one of my favorite episodes, the Powerpuff Girls' best rainy day adventure ever. Also plug in my amino.
The city of Townsville, and it's raining. No one on the streets because it's raining. No government today because it's raining.
I decided to go with this episode not as a contrarian way to show how even though there's no true crime fighting, it's great. People still enjoy the crime fighting aspect and all the villains, so that's not the angle I personally care to tackle this as. I want to talk about Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, and want to show you all why millions of people care so much about them. Buttercup, frustrated about this rainy day, vents her feelings out, and not punching but nearly punching Bubbles, causing her to flinch and cry. Blossom obviously tells Buttercup to knock it off, and that this is going to get them nowhere on this boring, rainy day. So, what are they going to do?
Since we can't be the Powerpuff Girls outside, maybe we could play the Powerpuff Girls and fight crime right here at home? Sorry. That's a great idea!
Every voice actor is at their best here. The delivery for this line from Bubbles specifically is amazing. It's not a novel concept to play, pretend, and I believe I just talked about a recent Gumball episode where that was just the plan. However, the way it's handled here is so memorable that even 2 decades later, I still remember a ton of these scenes. They set up Townsville using toys, costumes, and their imagination. However, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows from that point on. No. They still argue because, of course, they set up Townsville, but who's going to play what? It's only 3 of them, and many characters go into a proper superhero situation. Blossom wants to do it one way, Buttercup wants to do it another way. The arguments between the two are actually not annoying at all. For most of it, aside from maybe 1 or 2 major tiffs, their disagreements are usually done within seconds. Also, like I said in my Rocket Power Rise and Fall, 90s friendships were just a little bit meaner looking back, but I do believe all the girls cared for each other. So Blossom is going to play the role of the town, and Buttercup is going to play the role of the monster. Bubbles is going to play the role of the mayor. The mayor's voice being portrayed through Bubbles is pure gold, and keeps the natural flow of fun smooth. Not only that, but hopefully someone can explain to me the magical sorcery that allows Bubbles to put on this hat that floats above her head. This is actually one of the well-remembered parts, where we see Blossom's depiction of Miss Bellum.
Miss Bellum, I'm waiting! Just a second, Mayor. I'm waiting, Miss Bellum! Just a second, Mayor. Sorry, Mayor. There was traffic this morning. Well, don't let it happen again!
Well, glossing over the elephant in the room, this is actually such a minor part in the episode that I don't even think it was really that big of a memorable part. I don't get it. If anything, hearing Blossom and Bubbles go at it when the mayor is too impatient to wait for Miss Bellum to arrive was actually really funny, because you could tell the first time that Blossom said it, it was towards the mayor. However, the second time that she says it, it was Blossom the Bubbles. Great voice direction can take a cartoon a long way. What a novel concept, I know. However, it's just such a great touch as a scene. Something like this was optional, but the great minds behind this episode knocked it out of the park. We get to another funny moment which, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but a slightly miffed Buttercup finally gets to play the role of the monster. The episode deliberately underplays the destruction of Townsville, not focusing on her or what she's doing. She's just a character in the back of the room kicking toy blocks. And it's that intentional underselling that's what sells it, ironically. Speaking of well-remembered moments, we get to another. The mayor calls the Powerpuff Girls, and by that I mean the Powerpuff Girls call the mayor, pretending to be the mayor. Again, it's so well written because it's simple, and fundamentally everything is written well. You have the setup being that way that they're calling the mayor pretending to have a danger, and the mayor being the gullible but lovable character that he is pretending to be the Powerpuff Girls, because that's exactly what the mayor would do. Jeez, I feel like I'm reviewing Band Geeks again, because of all of the memorable scenes here that everyone knows about. Miss Bellum would step in the mud, bad idea. to clean up the mayor's ridiculousness, and now that the Powerpuff Girls are called, it's time to save the day. Except, if Blossom is both the town and Miss Bellum, and Bubbles is the mayor and Buttercup is the monster, then who is Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup in the make-pretend Townsville? Now, what I enjoy about this moment here is that this argument is realistic. Coming from being an older brother for quite some time now, it makes complete sense for them to be upset that Blossom wants to be Blossom, but Buttercup is pretending to be Blossom, so now Blossom has to be Bubbles, and Bubbles can't be Bubbles because you can't pretend to be yourself. As silly as it sounds, it makes logical sense. Buttercup would much rather everyone pretend to be someone else, and Blossom thinks it's better to just pretend to be yourself. I harken back to the days where I'd be annoyed by equally as silly arguments as, well, SpongeBob and Patrick sharing a toy, for example. And to see it work years and years before that episode, there's just something magical about this episode. They roped the mayor into this, and even though his face sells the entire joke, it's really heartwarming to see him put everything down just to make his girls happy.
I'm gonna kick your butt, evil monster! Choo, 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 choo. Give up, monster! Never! Choo, 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 choo.
I totally get that cartoons nowadays have overarching plots, deep lore, interwoven storylines, and strong morals to tell, but to me, cartoons can also just be plain old fun escapism where you can just pick up an episode and enjoy. Not every cartoon should be this way, but when I do find cartoons that just want to tell jokes and have fun full stop, I cherish them because I feel like they're becoming rarer and rarer these days. Professor Utonium playing Bubbles stops the monster and he's out. It's a tiny gesture, but it definitely does not go unnoticed. So the day is actually not saved just yet because they have to figure out where this monster came from. This is when both Bubbles and Buttercup pretend to play the roles of Fuzzy Lumpkins and him, respectively. After deciding that neither of them would be compatible masterminds, they go to the only person who could have come up with such a genius plan of this stature.
It was not you. It was me, Mojo Jojo. Do not try and stop Mojo.
Take that, Mojo Jojo!
Bubbles! What part of this pretend game don't you get?
Well, you were just so convincing. What do you want me to do?
Pretend!
Such a classic scene here. So Mojo Jojo gets 60 seconds to hide, but even with a head start, they never find Mojo Jojo, causing Blossom to be very annoyed with them. Storming down to confront them on this, Buttercup, playing Pitfall on the Atari 2600, tells Blossom that she and Bubbles are done playing and they have moved on to something else. This part of the episode could have ruined the whole thing completely if done poorly, because it could have either shown Blossom to be incredibly whiny and controlling, but then also show Buttercup to be unlikably rude, and thus making the whole episode crumble and then be unwatchable. They skip past this, getting back to what makes the Powerpuff Girls fun, lots of actions, and the characters that we grew up loving. Blossom, still playing the role of Mojo Jojo, takes the ROM cartridge out of the system, then runs off as the girls play fight once more. However, their time of playing has to come to an end, as it is no longer raining, and they must go back to being crime-fighting superheroes once more.
The city of Townsville, and it's sunny. Playtime is over, so once again the day will be saved for real thanks to the Powerpuff Girls. Oh, I wanted to be Bubbles.
This is such a well-received classic episode, and I wanted to appreciate the original Powerpuff Girls on the day it aired. I find it to be a show that should be talked about more. Like Ed, Edd and Eddy, I see it talked about more in passing rather than appreciated in video form. Hopefully that can change, and hopefully I can be a part of that change, but until then, big thanks to the supporters of November! And if you want to see the other Powerpuff Girls review I did, 3 Girls and a Monster, click here. Until then, take care. Alpha out.